how did you get to New York City?
Well, I remember coming here the very first time. I think I got a scholarship from the university where I was studying in Sweden, in Gothenburg, at the University of Gothenburg, where I did my undergrad. And they gave me some money to go to New York for an inspirational trip, just to sort of check it out. I always wanted to come here. Being a musician and a trumpet player as I am, this is the city to be, you know, but I didn't know what it was like to actually be here. So I came here the first time, I think it was 2013 in February, and it was cold and really nasty. And the Sandy, the hurricane, had struck maybe a couple of months before that. So I remember it was still kind of like, you could see the damage that it had done to the city as I was walking around and discovering things. But that was my first time here. And I will never forget, I think I came out of the subway at Union Square, and I was supposed to stay at this hotel on 17th Street. I think it's called Hotel 17. So, and I didn't know how to get there. And I just came out, and some very nice woman clearly saw me and was like, this guy doesn't know where he is. So she pointed me in the right direction. And then that was my first appearance in the city.
You said it was always an interest of yours to come here, that New York is the place to be. What was, before you came here, what was your impression of New York, specific to professional musicians, to trumpet players specifically?
Well, I just knew that the city has so many musicians in this concentrated area, like living in a dense populated area with so many clubs and opportunities and bands. And, you know, later I understood that to be able to get some of these gigs outside of the city, you just have to live here and to be associated with New York City. And then you can get booked for gigs. Even back in Sweden, I got hired just because, maybe not just because, but it helped that I was living in New York City. So I had this idea of a magical place, packed with jam sessions and musicians, and sort of a naive view, because, you know, it's like a fairy tale, New York City. And then you get here in like a cold winter night and you're like, wow, okay, it's not exactly the way I thought it was going to be. But at least I was close to all the jazz clubs, being on 17th Street, and most of them being in the West Village. It was easy to walk down and start meeting people. And yeah.
Given that impression, was it always an interest or a clear goal of yours to be here, to live here and to work here? Was that obvious to you?
I think it was, and it was for quite some time before I decided to audition to study here. Because as a Swedish citizen, the easiest way to come here would be on a student visa. What would allow me to stay for 2 years, plus an extra year after that, before you had to make up your mind on, okay, what's the next step, you know? So for me, the easiest way was to apply to do my master's, which is what I did, and at the Manhattan School of Music. So before, you know, I had finished my undergrad, I had also done an exchange semester in Cuba and Havana, which is also a great city for music, right? So that was sort of a taste of, I wanted more after coming back from Havana, seeing all those musicians, and what's the next place that could possibly deliver in terms of all this music and all these people. I think New York City was the next logical step, maybe.
Wow, I had no clue you lived in Cuba.
It was only for one semester, but it gave me enough. It sparked something like, I need to keep doing this, and to not only be in Sweden, because Sweden is a great place to be. But if you want to, I felt like I needed to get out of there for a minute. And it turned out to be more than 10 years.
Tell me about Havana as it pertains to the music scene and just as a city and a culture. What do you remember about the place?
Well, just like this city, New York City, it is very densely populated. They don't have like the skyscrapers and stuff, but you're very close to people wherever you walk, or you're taking these buses, or so it's a big city. So I don't think Sweden has that. Stockholm maybe it's the biggest city in Scandinavia, but it still doesn't have that day-to-day craziness that you come across here in Manhattan or Brooklyn, or same in Havana. Just so much like the traffic and all the street vendors trying to sell stuff, and so I remember it just being very intense, a lot of sounds, and a lot of it was music because they had so many small restaurants and little venues and bars, and they would have their little band play, maybe 3 or 4 people. A lot of it was for the tourists. Same as here, a lot of jazz clubs are more for the jazz tourists than the actual people who live here. Unless you're a millionaire. But so I remember just seeing and hearing all this and being like, wow, this is very different from my hometown, Gothenburg. Just you don't have to walk in to hear something. And I experienced this in Nashville as well, that you can just walk down. Is it Broadway? They have a Broadway there, right?
I don't know that city very well.
Okay, but there's a main street.
Okay.
And you walk down and you can just hear, like, the windows are open and you can just hear the music flow out, come out to the street. And I love that combination of the mix of you didn't buy a ticket for anything. You're just walking and kind of listening and like interacting as you go along. And that was something that struck me as I was in Cuba, in Havana. So
I'd love to go back to your upbringing. Was music always at the center of your life? Did you know from an early age that you at least had a resonance with music, with jazz, with the trumpet in general?
Yeah, I think so. Like my family is we're very immersed in music for generations, and I didn't know this until later as I started doing some research, but I am the 10th generation in my family to play music. Not exactly like the lineage doesn't go exactly like, parents, child, parent, like it goes a little bit sideways like this, but you can trace it back to the 1700s, like mid 1700s, mostly folk violin players, because that's what you played in Sweden if you were a musician. So yes, I grew up in a very musical family. A lot of family members played in the symphony orchestra in Gothenburg. At some point we had like 7 family members were part of the orchestra. So going on like a field trip with your school, sometimes they would have these shows or concerts for kids at the concert hall, and it would be like a family reunion basically. I could just wave to my grandmother and my aunt, and sometimes my dad would be playing in the orchestra as well. So I grew up with music since day one, I think.
Was there a specific instrument that you were particularly drawn to, or was it really for the first many years just an interest generally in music?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't think the trumpet came later, as I was maybe 6 or 7 years old. Before then, it was just singing, and my mom is a choir director and a vocal teacher, and my dad is a percussion player. So I think I got the best foundation in terms of singing, obviously. Learn how to sing different pitches and harmonize, and then also getting the percussion, the rhythm part from my dad, who's also a DJ. Wow. So he would play all this music that I never heard of. Even now, sometimes I hear a song and I know it, but I haven't heard it in 20 years or something, because my dad would have been playing it in the living room. And, you know, I still recognize it, and I'm like, wow, it's been a long time since I heard this. So yeah, it was just sort of those two basic elements of singing, melodies, and the rhythm. And after that came more like the trumpet and playing in bands and learning theory and all that stuff. But starting out with those two was a very good way to get started with music.
I think you said you started the trumpet when you were 6 or 7, something like that.
I think so. We had to pick an instrument. I think it was mandatory, kind of, in Gothenburg in Sweden. You had to play an instrument. Like, you take your math and science, and you have to play an instrument, and you didn't have to pay for it, which was great. So very nice way to get some sort of interest and start, you know. I'm happy that I was forced to play. I think you had to play 1 year of recorder, which is a terrible instrument to start off with. You know, that seemed like more like they wanted to make sure that you could take that horrible noise. If you passed a year, if you could do a year of recorder, you could do anything. So, and I got through it. So, that was a good way to like a trial by fire, you know, kind of thing.
Was it pretty clear from the beginning that you had a resonance with trumpet, that there was something about the sound, the practice, the habit of playing it that aligned with you?
Yeah, and I can see pictures like in our photo albums at home. I see pictures of me interacting with trumpets in general. Like, I don't know who had one, but I was always drawn to the shape of it and the metal, and I didn't know how to make a sound. The first lesson, it took me 2 weeks to actually get a sound.
Wow.
Because I didn't know how to, it didn't come natural to me. So I had to, it took me a while to get that going. And then also, like, my best friend, he chose to play saxophone, and the saxophone case is a little bigger and heavier. He ended up quitting because it was too heavy for him to carry. So the trumpet is really easy to pack up and, you know, set up. The setup is easy to carry it around. And so I like the mobility of it and all the different styles that you're able to play as a trumpet player. So that was great.
I want to move into high school. Did you begin around that age to take the practice more seriously? Were you beginning to think in any way at that, you know, in your teenage years, that this is something you might want to be dedicating yourself to, your life to, in some serious way, or did that come later?
I think I always knew that I was going to do music in some sort of way. I just didn't know, like, how or what form or what style, or, you know. So I kept it open just to, you know, sometimes the instrument doesn't agree with you. Let's say you're trying to learn the oboe or something, and that's a really hard instrument to master. And there's a big hump to get over before it starts to sound good. If you play the piano and you press down the key, it will produce a pretty nice sound. Yeah. Even if you are 2 years old. Yeah. It sounds like a piano. And the trumpet is not like that, and the oboe is definitely not like that. So you really have to, it's like how do you say this? It's just the underlying, like, how do you produce the vibrations that will create the sound so that now you can play? Yeah. So that, I think that is you have to have a lot of patience. And so I didn't try to push it too hard in terms of practicing. I was always practicing, obviously, but also practicing by visualizing internally songs or ways to improvise, or, you know, a lot of it was just by thinking. And that has really helped me. So I don't, even if I don't have the horn with me, I can sort of practice a song just by thinking and visualizing it. So that, I think that was good, because I wasn't tied to the horn It didn't have to be just the trumpet. As many players just go and practice 3-4 hours a day, violin or piano, but I kept it a little more open, playing different instruments and obviously singing and playing drums and all this stuff. I think it all added to the experience of the joyous, like, you have to feel the joy to be able to continue. Because if you don't, if it doesn't feel good, you don't want to do it for the rest of your life. But it definitely did for me. So I was able to gradually get better and to a different level that at some point, you know, allows you to do some gigs and you get hired to play. And that's when you really realize, you know, oh, okay, I can do this.
There might be something here.
There might be something here. If people enjoy hearing this, then maybe I should keep going.
What you just said may be the most important point, which is without the joy, it's a ton of work to get to where you are, obviously, in your career. And that was going to be my next question, which was, given that it sounds like you didn't have, or you, at least in your remembering of this, a ton of natural talent of just being able to pick up the trumpet and play it immediately. Maybe that talent came later. The obvious talent came later, the more you were able to create the sound in practice and improve. What kept you with it in the early few years when you were not very good? Was it as simple as you just enjoyed doing it, that there was a pleasure in practicing and getting better, or something else?
Well, I was playing a lot of, well, in Europe it's football, but soccer.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, the soccer practice was as important as playing the trumpet. And I kept both of those sort of 50-50, you know. I was really working hard playing soccer, and I wanted to play, like, I wanted to be a soccer player. And then maybe around in high school, I had to sort of make a choice. And the team I was playing for, they were going to split up and merge with a different team. So I think that's when I decided, I must have been 14 or 15. And that's when I really felt, okay, I can go to this new team, or I can just go music from now on. And that's what I decided to do. So before then, trumpet was just a part of my routine, I guess, but also doing my, you know, learning Spanish or doing my English homework or math. You know, I just kept everything going until you were faced with like a choice. And so soccer had to, you know, I never stopped playing, but, you know, really pursuing it, that fell out. And then I could focus more on music. And that's when that's when I was, you know, people started asking me, can you play it? So all these different bands and orchestras, and at school, big bands, there was so many opportunities to play. Most of them didn't pay anything, but it was a good way to start. And then you start to get noticed by audience, other musicians, and they want to bring you to a new situation and a jam session. You know, it all leads to something. Yeah. Making connections with people.
That choice of going music over soccer, was that mostly because you were better in music than you were at soccer? It was just more enjoyable for you to do music than soccer? How do you think in retrospect about that decision, which seems to be a fairly formative choice in your early life?
Yeah, that is a good question. I'm trying to think, you know, I mean, sports and music are both a big part of my everyday life, right? But I would say music has the ability to be a bigger part, because there's always music, you know, but you only need a ball to be able to do some game, baseball or soccer or anything, catch, you know. And with music, you don't have to have anything, because you can sing together, or you can clap, or you can, you know, so music wins in terms of the accessibility to it.
Yeah.
And I think I realized that the way I hear music, I think I approached soccer the same way almost, like you don't listen to soccer, but you can read the game. Like you're, what do you call it? I used to be a defender, so I could sort of anticipate what was going to happen. And that's when I stepped in and I got a hold of the ball. I wasn't a striker that would just run tirelessly, because I got too tired. So I realized, I think that was my style, both in music, and I have this ability to see where music is going and things are going before it happens. And so to interact and sort of feel very secure and confident in both sports and music. So I feel like soccer gave me something for music and vice versa.
Did you go to college for music? Was that the next step post high school? What did you do when you graduated?
Yeah, in Sweden, there's like the regular way of doing things, that you go to high school and then you have another 2 years of, I don't know what the equivalent is here. It's some kind of preparatory, like before college.
Okay.
I skipped that because I auditioned to go to the university straight away, and I was 19, I guess, when I got in. So there was no gap between high school and college, which is usually the case in Sweden. And once I was in, I actually took 1 year off between the second and third year. In Sweden, you do 3 years of undergrad and 2 years of grad, masters. So I took a break, which was great. And in Sweden, you know, education is so different there. You don't have the pressure and stress of paying the tuition, and you know, you don't have to pay to go to school. So you could afford to take a year off because there's no rush, you know.
No.
They actually give you a little scholarship. You can take a loan, but you can also get a little bit of money every month just to attend college, you know, which was a great thing. So, and I wanted to be in Gothenburg, so I stayed where I was and just kept everything going. So that was my plan, just to stay in the city, and everything else sort of fell into place. Yeah, that's how I went.
At that time, were you thinking your life is going to be in Sweden, your work is going to be in Sweden as a musician, or were you already beginning to think bigger dreams, bigger ideas? I know you went to Cuba, but were other cities already on your radar?
Well, a lot of people move up to Stockholm. Sweden is a small country.
Yeah.
We have almost the same amount of people as in New York City, you know, about 10 million maybe. So a lot of people move to Stockholm because there are more opportunities there. I always thought, well, if everyone moves to Stockholm, no one's going to be stay behind in Gothenburg. So maybe I shouldn't move up to Stockholm. So I didn't. But then came the Havana opportunity. And I think after that, I felt I want to keep exploring, to become a better musician, and to, if I were to come back to Gothenburg later, at least I would have this experience that I can bring back and share with my peers in the city.
Did you ever consider other career choices, something significantly different than music, or was that really the sole and only focus of what you thought you would do professionally?
Since 8th grade, I think I went to like music school. You know, it was all focus was music, and high school, it was also a music, you know. So I kind of felt that, you know, I'm really going all in on this, and I'm not trying to do anything with science or finance, or, you know, because there were different programs you could do even at high school. It's not the same system as here. But I felt, I mean, I'm already in this. I don't think I'm going to stop, like, unless I injure myself or something. And so far, I've been okay. Knock on. Can't hear that in the microphone, but yeah, I think from very early, I knew that it was going to be music, and that kept me going just in that direction.
The experience of coming to New York, you said it was a couple months after Sandy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what convinced you that you wanted to move here to try to live in New York? What exactly triggered the move here as a musician, as a student?
So this is a pretty good story, because I know exactly when this happened. And it was probably I must have come here to check in at the hotel and everything. I think it was already dark, and in February, so it must have been late afternoon, early evening, and I must have been tired because standing in line at immigration, and it's a long journey. I think I flew to Finland, so I flew the wrong direction first, east, and then did like an 8-9 hour flight, and then the line and just try to get in. Everything went well, but it just takes a long time. So when you finally check in, you're kind of like, you're checked out. I mean, you're so tired.
Yeah.
But so I don't remember if I went the first night or if I waited one day, but I had somewhere to go, a recommendation by one of my teachers. And he had a friend who lived here in the city, and he was playing on Monday nights at the Village Vanguard.
Oh, yeah.
And that is obviously the club that, if I could choose one club to go to and all over, the entire world, I wouldn't go to any other club than Village Vanguard if I could only pick one. So that was my first jazz club in New York City that I went to. And that was a Monday night. And just to hear that band, they have big bands on Mondays. It's been going on since the 60s. It's a long tradition of this band. I don't think they have any of the original members now. But some of those people played there for years, like a long time. But just to hear that legacy and the charts that they play, the songs that they played, you were really like, wow, I want to be a part of this somehow. I still haven't played at the Village Vanguard, but I've been hanging out there a lot with this guy that I met, and he was a teacher at the Manhattan School of Music. So talking to him and interacting with him, that was the key to, because he encouraged me to apply. It's like, that's the best way for you to, if you really want to stay here a longer period of time. I think you could stay here for 3 months if you're a tourist, but you can't work, and you can only sort of hang out. So I wanted to be able to do everything. So as a student, that really opened up a lot of doors. And the rest of the teachers at Manhattan School of Music, the faculty, and also your fellow classmates that I still play with today, which is a great thing. So
the Village Vanguard, I mean, even as someone who knows very little about jazz, I know that name, and I know that would be the equivalent of like the Comedy Cellar in the comedy world. And they're weirdly like less than half a mile from each other.
That's right.
In New York City, in the West Village, Greenwich area. Tell me about the Village Vanguard. What was your perception of the place? What do you know about that venue?
Well, I'll never forget, standing in line to get in, and they have this red awning. You can see Village Vanguard. I think they had to replace this one because a truck hit it a couple of years ago. So they don't have the original one anymore. But that's okay. I was able to see the nice looking one. And so you go down 2 sets of stairs. It's in the basement, and when you sit there and wait for the set to start, or even when they are playing, you can feel the one train rumble as it passes. It's not far away.
Wow.
So you feel it when you're sitting there, like you know that something's happening. So, and all the, they have a lot of photos of the people who play there. A lot of live concerts have been taped at the Vanguard. John Coltrane, for instance. So they really have this incredible legacy. So when you come down there, everything's kind of, the main color there is, I would say, red. Like, that's what I think when I for jazz, it's like blue is a very good color for jazz, I would say. But red is also like all around. They have this little bar and all these tables. And if you order the cheapest thing you can order is a seltzer, and it's like $5. So I ended up ordering a lot of seltzers there because as a student, you don't have, unlimited money.
Yeah.
But you come down there and you wait for them to start, and they're just seeing the way everyone's so friendly. Like you can really tell that this band is the people surrounded themselves with friends, and it's like a big family. And that really stuck with me. Like, you should surround yourself with people that you can laugh, and you're about to do something really special on stage, and the audience has paid a lot of money to come there and hear you. So of course you want to give them a good show and have a good time at the same time. So that's how I would describe the club.
It's one venue, it's one stage, and it's the same bands that show up week after week. Do you know about how that works?
Well, Monday nights they have this big band that has been there. Now they call it the Village Vanguard Jazz Orchestra, I think.
Okay.
But it used to have a different name. And then the rest of the week they have residencies. So there will be a quartet, a famous jazz artist will come and do 4 or 5 shows maybe throughout the week. And then that will rotate, and they will switch out and have different artists come through different groups. So there's always a new thing to hear, except on Monday nights. And those are the nights that I was there most of the time. Because they could put me on the list, so I didn't have to pay $40 or something per night. So it was a great opportunity to come down and study some of the musicians that I would take classes with during the daytime, and then I could come down and hear them do their thing in the night. So that was really inspirational, just to get the academic part of, and then, like, I think it's really important, if you are a teacher, you should also be performing what you're trying to teach, what they're about to perform. So you should do both. So
is it fair to say that the people who perform at the Village Vanguard, I mean, these are world-class jazz musicians?
Yes, I would say so. Yeah, I made some incredible connections, and also to meet the other guests that are there to, they're really there to immerse themselves in something, in an art form that is very special to this country, right? That you can't really find anywhere else.
So you go to the Manhattan School of Music, you graduate. Did you know you wanted to stay in New York while you were in school? How did you end up staying here? I'd love to hear about that transition from being a student to being a citizen, as somebody who is offering their services in New York as a professional musician.
Right. Well, for a lot of non-Americans coming here on a student visa, then after you graduate, you have 1 year, or if it's 9 months, but 9 to 12 months to extend this visa on, I think it's called OPT. And now you're actually allowed to accept work, and you have to report all your different jobs that you've been doing and send them in monthly. And it's just a kind of a strange process.
Yeah.
After that, you can apply for the artist visa. That it's called the O1. I think it's an alien of extraordinary abilities.
Yes.
That is also, I think, if you're a Nobel Prize winner. So it's not only if you're a jazz musician. I don't know how it works for athletes, if they have a separate one. But yeah, you're really good at something, this visa might be for you. But you have to prove to the government or whoever issues your visa that you are qualified for this. And how do you do that when it comes to art? It's hard to put it into words sometimes when you do music or painting, or so you have to be really smart with how you apply for this. And it's a long process, and it's definitely a journey to go through that. And you have this interview at I did it at the embassy in Stockholm, the American embassy, where they just ask you, so what makes you the best? That was the question I got. And I knew that they were going to ask me this, so I had something prepared. But I know some other people that sort of got like that surprised them, and that ended up their visa got denied because they couldn't motivate why they are the best.
Yeah.
And that is a typical American thing. Like in
so
my
true.
You know.
So true.
What makes you the best? And then you just say it. I do this and the way I combine this music and this and that. Yeah, that's why I'm the best. And they're like, okay, all right, you're approved. So now you can stay for 3 more years. The artist visa is for 3 years. So then you have to renew that. My life changed, and I met someone, and we have a son, and that allowed me to go on a different path towards being a permanent resident. But that wasn't until later on. But I started out with the artist visa.
The artist visa and the ability to stay here for 3 years, was that for you a massive victory, extremely exciting? How did you feel about that when that was granted to you?
It was, you work so hard to gather all the evidence that you need. You're just supposed to send in this stack of paper to sort of prove that you are what you are, and you're supposed to be here to do this in New York City. So to get that approved was a great relief. And now you don't have to think about it for another 3 years, maybe.
Yeah.
And I know people who have renewed this 2 or 3 times. Artists that are from, let's say, Japan or Italy, and it's always a scary thing because they don't know if there's going to be a policy change or change of how they admit or approve of visas, and you just never know what's going to happen, right? So it's incredibly stressful. You can only plan for 3 years of your life. So, but it's better than having no legal status, obviously. So you have to start somewhere. But eventually I was able to get the green card, and then I became a citizen last year in February. So almost a year ago.
In retrospect, outside of being actually world-class or excellent at the craft for which you were trying to get this visa, how does one go about convincing someone in an embassy that they are the best, that they are worthy of this extraordinary ability visa? How would you recommend or suggest or give advice to a friend who is about to go through that process?
I mean, I think it's about how you present it and angle things. And, you have to have all these letters of recommendation. And I, through all those teachers and professors at Manhattan School, I was able to get some good letters of recommendation. So that was really helpful. And I remember there is this really great composer and arranger, and her name is Maria Schneider, and she has her own jazz orchestra. And I asked her just to if she could write me a letter, which she said yes to, and signed it and everything. And then once I was approved, I sent her a text, thank you for helping me with this. I got approved. And she said, you're the first person who ever thanked me afterwards for getting approved. She'd never been thanked. Wow. So don't forget to thank the people that helped you. That is a good advice once you're approved. And then obviously, I think having a lawyer that can put this together is definitely going to help you get your visa approved. I didn't use a lawyer. And I was able to get it. But I think now, this is almost 10 years ago. Yeah. Things have changed. So you have to go through someone who knows exactly how to package it and present it to the officer. That's your case officer.
So now you're in New York. How did you survive? What did you do to pay the bills, to get your career going?
Well, it doesn't matter where you move. It's always a slow start, getting to know people. And so it's always a hustle trying to establish yourself and just know people. And even if you go out, there's a lot of jam sessions at night. But even doing that, you end up spending a lot of money because you have to be out and you have to pay these covers and you have to get a drink, and you end up spending a lot of money. So I didn't do that too much, the jam session thing. It just wasn't for me. So I tried to rely on my former classmates. We all graduated, so we're in the same boat, maybe, so to speak. And the teachers that I had, all those connections were really useful. And at Manhattan School of Music, we call it MSM, so I'll say MSM. At MSM, when I was taught there, they were very, very, they thought it was very important to have sort of like 3 foundations of your musical career, which is obviously performing, composing and arranging like your own songs, and also teaching. Those 3 together, if you look at all the most successful artists, they had some sort of combination of all these 3. Not only were they performing, but they were also teaching and composing and arranging. And recording is in there somewhere, but that's a part of the composing to make sure that the composition is actually heard. You gotta make a record. So those 3 have always been the 3 pillars of your like musicianship, your artistship. So I try to do all those 3, and slowly you get a couple of students, and you get someone commissions you to write some arrangements for a horn section maybe, and then you do your performing as well. And that was all going pretty well up until 2020, because that's when obviously the pandemic happened. And then there weren't a lot of performance opportunities for a while.
Early on, were there certain gigs that you got that really helped financially? Were they all of equal value for your time? Were there we've talked offline about private parties that I know at this stage in your career you've done, but early on, what helped to pay the bills? Were there certain gigs you would get that were the most lucrative, that helped out the most just to logistically and existentially survive in the city?
Well, I think I got lucky. I mean, I don't know if it was luck, but I was recommended by one of my teachers at MSM, a trumpet player named Tony Cadlick. He recommended me to do a show. It wasn't a Broadway show, but it was an off-Broadway show, which is the closest thing to a Broadway show. Just that it's not a Broadway show. They classify these different venues and theaters. I think it used to be based on how many seats like the capacity. Now I think it has to do with financials more. But there's this theater called the Public Theater.
Sure.
And that's where Hamilton started.
Yes.
That is still running 10 years later, So I did a show at the Public Theater right as I got approved for my artist visa. So it really helped me to be in a professional setting, in theater, which was great. That really set me up to do more shows and meet people in the industry. The show was written by David Byrne from Talking Heads. So obviously there was a great opportunity just to be around these people who were so experienced, and I was not. But I still work with some of the musicians from that show. Like I still see them from time to time. So that was really helpful in the beginning. And that was before I found some of these, there's a lot of these event, wedding, corporate bands that do dinners and cocktail hours and parties. And like we were just talking, I just did a gig in St. Bart's with one of these bands. Those are really, really essential. Having a couple of those bands that really helps with paying the bills. That's for sure.
Is it fair to say that over the years, the 10-ish years from then to now, it's been a slow compounding effort, a compounding effect leading to more opportunities, that the more people you meet, the more people who trust you, who like the work that you do, that you get along well with, that just slowly over time, there does seem to be more opportunities that come your way?
Definitely. I think so. And I try not to say no to a gig that I haven't done before, even if it's a style of music that I haven't performed earlier. Like I'll get called to do something that I never tried before, and I'll say yes, and then still feel confident enough to say yes, and then prepare for the gig and do it, and then afterwards I'll be like, okay, I might not do that again, depending on how it went. But there's always someone there. That's why I don't say no. There's always someone in the crowd or another musician that will be like, all right, I'll call him next time. So to me, that is the best way of getting hired and expanding your network, to just be present and be there, and obviously not do anything stupid. Just try to survive and be nice to each other and be on time and play well. And you don't have to perform miracles, but if you're just there and tuned in to what's happening there, that is going to help you tremendously, I think.
Would you say that fundamentally is the secret sauce of living in New York, is all of these in-person opportunities to meet people who are actively involved in this world, who are professionals, and by just hustling and putting yourself out there and being the kind of freelance employee you would like to hire, that these things just have a momentum to them, that's how people end up making it here?
Yeah, I think so. You have to kind of be a people person. So I know a lot of musicians who are super talented and they excel, like they're the best of the best in terms of their craftsmanship and how well they play. But socially, they might not get along and it might not work to be in a setting. I mean, music usually takes place in social settings, whether that's a rifle club in West Village or a private dinner on the Upper East Side. It's always, people want music because they want to create memories and come together and do something together. That's where music really fits in, or just to dance, Music I think it serves a lot of different purposes, but they're all very social. It involves hanging out and having a drink or eating a slice of pizza, something that you do together. So it's very, communal.
Yes. And
if you are not that type of person, it might be hard for you to fit, to interact and make a good impression.
Over the years, the more you do this, I don't know how much you knew coming straight out of it. You said MSM?
MSM, yeah.
I don't know how much you knew about the opportunities that were available to professional musicians in New York. Obviously, you knew about the high-end venues where people were playing professionally for money. Over the years, what did you learn about, specific to New York, the kind of opportunities that are available to people who are competent, respected, trusted, reliable? What are the strictly business opportunities that you learned exist that you maybe you didn't know when you were first getting out of school?
Well, I didn't know that, and I'm still discovering all the you sort of have to map out the hotels that have live music, the little bars, a lot of social clubs, obviously, members only clubs. The amount of these clubs is just overwhelming.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have music, and you wouldn't have known that. You might pass by on the street outside and you have no idea what's going on the inside. So discovering this through other friends and musicians who are doing those gigs, you kind of be like, oh, okay, I didn't know they had music there. Let me go check it out. And maybe you get to talk to the booker, or someone makes an introduction for you. So those types of gigs, they exist here in the city, especially in Manhattan. And they are it's always nice to play in the city. You don't have to travel. I had no idea that there was such a big network of these social settings where people actually want to have live music as part of their evening,
How for yourself did you create the opportunities to seize those opportunities, to have them and go work there? How did that actually happen?
A lot of it is through recommendations from other musicians and friends. Subbing, which is, filling in for someone else, has been a great introduction to playing at some of these clubs. I remember a lot of the first times playing at, let's say there's one called the Nomad. That was by subbing for Wayne, that has been on this podcast as well. Yeah. So he would ask me to do. I can't make it to this one. Can you do it instead? Of course. I mean, I never say no because I don't know what the vibe is yet. And then you get there, and that's how you start talking with the manager, and you meet the booker, and as long as you're respectful and friendly and social, you have a good chance of coming back.
Shout out Wayne Tucker.
Thank you, Wayne.
The opportunities that you have come your way, are there specific ones that we were talking, and you just mentioned this about this incredible New Year's Eve gig you just did in the Caribbean? Are there certain types of gigs that are sort of the gem of the freelance music world, the freelance jazz world, that pay the best, are known to be just respectful of you and treat you very well? Or are they all kind of grouped in as the same?
I think it differs a lot from place to place, from all these clubs and restaurants, and you never know what their policy is going to be like. So it's hard to have like a general, kind of idea of. But I do know, for me, one of my biggest dreams is to play on, one of the late night shows, or doing something with TV. Saturday Night Live, obviously. Those are way up there, as like you get to be a beautiful big group, a nice band that sounds great, and it's live, it's TV, it's all these cameras. I've sat in on a rehearsal, just not playing, just observing for Saturday Night Live. Cool. And I will never forget how amazing they played so well. And it was just the rehearsal. I think it started at 11:30 a.m. Like, that show goes late, So they're there for over 12 hours. And running through tunes that they're going to play during the commercial breaks. And if there's something like a monologue, you might have to play some background stuff if the host has to sing something, So they're just making sure everything's all right. And so being in that setting was really inspirational, just to see how they do it. And I will never forget that. It was a great experience.
I mean, throughout this whole journey, you're playing a lot, you're practicing a lot. I would assume you're getting better at your craft. And I always like to learn about habits that people have implemented, especially professionals, to particularly over the years. And I'm a big believer in compound interest over long periods of time. That's typically how life works for upward trajectories and downward trajectories too.
Yeah.
What, if that resonates with you at all, what are the habits that you have found have helped you particularly get better at your craft? Obviously there's the practicing, but if there's any intentionality that you implement, a discipline, I'd love to hear about how you think about that and what has worked for you.
That is an interesting question. I mean, besides the preparation, a lot of it, me preparing for these gigs, is by just listening to music, because you have to learn. Me as a trumpet player, maybe I have to learn like a horn line, or if I'm in a section or a melody, or I have to be able to play this melody beautifully. And a lot of that is being done just by listening to music. So me taking the subway, I'm always on the train, an hour or 2 hours a day maybe. That is the time I take to just sit and listen. And I have good noise canceling headphones to tune out all the craziness that's happening. And then you have an opportunity, because you could just sit there and play a game on your phone or something. But I really treat the transit time as a really good time to prepare for whatever is happening, right? So that's one thing. And then when in the actual performance situation, I definitely noticed that you get rehired more based on your sound and how nice it sounds, rather than how fast you can play or how many notes you can play or how high. As a trumpet player, it's always like you can play these high notes. That doesn't really matter. But if you can convey some sort of feeling in your sound and in your personality, because I'm not singing, but I'm trying to sing through the horn. So I always tend to play I would try to sound as beautiful as I can.
Yeah.
And that is what I think captures the listener's ear. And people will come up after and be like, I really like your sound. I think that is the key to staying active as a musician, not how fast you can play or like a sort of more virtuose element to it. If you sound good and you have a beautiful sound and it really reflects you as a person, maybe, then that's the number one key.
Somebody hears this who is coming to New York for the first time, and we've mentioned the top of the pyramid most likely for venues in the city for world-class jazz. What are the other great venues that you've either played at or attended or know about that you think is just a national treasure that you would recommend to a friend who is visiting New York for the first time, for jazz specifically?
For jazz specifically, I mean, there's so many. After the pandemic, there were a couple of clubs and bars that closed down, which was a shame, because one of my favorites was the Jazz Standard in Midtown, and that one didn't survive. So that was a bummer, because I really loved that place. That's also where Maria Schneider, that I mentioned earlier, with the letters of recommendation, that's where she had her residency. But the ones that are still around, it's, I feel very grateful for being able to play a couple of these clubs like Birdland and the Blue Note. And even if I only had one gig there, I feel like I did accomplish something just by having been on that stage and felt the energy and presence of all these great artists that have passed through over the years. And there's a place that I really like just because of to me, a lot of this music is it's like a time travel kind of thing. It takes you to a different place and sometimes to a different era, depending on what type of music you play and what style of jazz. And, there's so many different ways to play this music, and none is better than the other. But there's a place called the Zinc Bar. Also, a couple of blocks from the Blue Note, which is a couple of blocks from Village Vanguard. It's all in the same area. that is, to me, that gives that vibe of you're walking through this velvet curtain and then you're in this listening room that just takes you to a different place. And that's incredible. I love that. Even before the music starts, because you're not sure what it's going to sound like, but at least you've been transformed to a different plane where you can enjoy music, and no matter who's on the bandstand. So that's a cool place. I really enjoy going there. The Zinc Bar.
You were saying earlier that you are one of, I think you said, the 10th generation in your family musician.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And obviously there must be something genetic about that capacity, the capability, the interest in music outside of just the ability. I'm curious if, you come down on the side of those members of your family who have devoted themselves to music like you have, they hear music and it lights them up. Almost everybody loves music, but for people that have dedicated their life to it like you have, it is touching them in some way that would inspire someone to devote their life to creating beautiful sound and beautiful art. I don't know if you've thought about that or where you come down on that, but how do you make sense of why it is that you have made such a commitment to the craft that you have, to music in general, especially as it relates to this lineage you come from, and how there might be something there for people in your family that have done the same thing, that music touches them in a way that maybe nothing else really does?
Well, we would always celebrate. There's this holiday in Sweden called Midsummer. They also made a movie about Midsummer, but it's not very accurate. Don't watch that movie if you don't want it to get ruined. Okay. Midsummer is and it's the summer solstice, so it's like in late June, and we would always spend it in this region that's where the legacy is. My family is from that part of Sweden, and there's this tiny village, and people just live for the music. Again, music is such a social, it brings people together. Just like soccer can bring, you don't have to speak the same language. If you have a soccer ball, you can actually communicate. Yeah. And music does the same thing. So we would always play these songs that some of our ancestors either composed or that they played. And it would be instead of exploring your family tree by, taking a DNA test, or, there's so many ways you can do research about your family, hearing the songs would bring them back, sort of. So it was really magical. And I don't think I understood it when I was little, because to me, it was just a song in the beginning, maybe. And then as I learned more about these people, usually fiddlers, right? Because that's what the tradition was in Sweden. I never met them in person, but I feel like I know them through the melodies, which is a really cool thing that you can't do it another way. There's no other way you can feel that or get to know that person, because they didn't have cameras back then. You have photos, but you don't hear their voices, or you don't know what they sound like or what they're like. But through those songs, you're able to actually relive some of their memories, maybe. So that's what brought me to sort of preserve some of these melodies, and I've recorded some of this music as well, that I know that you've been listening to. Yeah. So to me, it's a way of preserving a family legacy, and that could be done through cooking as well, like cooking some grandma's recipe of your favorite tomato sauce, something like that, or a cookie or something. It's the same thing. It just happened to be music in our family.
I always like to close these conversations by asking guests about how they think about the word success. And the majority answer for the nearly 100 artists I've met in the last 9 months has been their goal is to be able to do their craft and live comfortably solely on that craft. And it seems like you have achieved that already, where you, for years now, seemingly do what you do and are living in New York and are living your life. And I'd love to close by asking you how you think about the word success, specifically as it relates to your career. You know, if we were to talk, you talked about Saturday Night Live, wanting to perform at the Village Vanguard.
Yeah.
If we were to meet in a year or 3 years, where do you hope your career is going? How do you think about the word success as it applies to you professionally, also personally?
Well, it's interesting because I mentioned that, my son was, he's now 8, and we had a conversation about success the other day, where he has a very different idea of it's very tied to how much money you have.
Oh, okay. He's a New Yorker.
Sounds about right. Yeah, he's definitely a New Yorker. And it was interesting to hear his perspective. And I said, well, success can come in many shapes and forms, and maybe they all together form what success means to you. If success is having a family that supports you and encourages you to do your thing, then I definitely feel like I'm successful because I have that. To me, it's a lot of things. It's like success is not just one thing. You played at this place or you met this person. It's just the sum of all of these things that make life enjoyable, maybe. Whether it's you get to travel a little bit and play music, and you don't have to buy your plane ticket yourself. So you can actually use that money to pay your rent instead, because this is an expensive place to live.
Yeah.
But also to be able to play with or call your parents if they're still alive, or me playing with my son, is also that all together is my definition of success, to have all those elements. Because if I was only playing music and I didn't have any social life or no family or nothing, no romantic interaction, nothing, I don't think that would be successful for me. So that, to me, it's really the sum of all these things in life that make life better. That if you have a little bit of everything there, that adds up to what I would call success.
A more holistic approach.
I would say so, yeah.
Music is a key part of that, but it's a multifaceted component.
Yes.
Yeah. Oskar, thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.